Welcome to Meet the Biz. Today, I have my ex-roomie. We used to live in a little guest house in the back for, I don't know, about a year. Was it about a year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I knew when we were living together, I said, damn, this woman has talent.
Oh.
Damn, she has. She's like, she's gonna be doing it soon. And little did I know, after she moved out from me, probably before, actually, she was going to use. Listen, before I talk, let me just introduce her, Santina Muha.
The crowd goes wild.
Hello, roomie.
Dog goes wild. He's the crowd right now.
Now, just think if we were still living together now.
I know. Oh my God, we'd have to be 6 feet apart in that guest house. I don't know if that's possible.
That's not possible. That's not possible. I don't know how we did it, but we did it, and we did it well.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I have to say she was one of my best roommates.
Oh, thanks.
Excuse me, you were one of my best roommates. I'm talking like to the third person. I actually love your new place. You know, I haven't been there.
You know.
I was there right before you moved in, but.
Yeah, when it was empty, right? But here it is. I've become very familiar with these walls these past few weeks.
Yeah.
Which is okay. Honestly, as somebody, I'm in a wheelchair, you can't tell from this view, but as somebody who's faced, a few different hospital stays throughout my life, I'm just very grateful to be in my apartment with solid foods and a shower and a dog and a few different room choices and,
right.
My health for now, thank God so far. So I'm not really, the isolation part of this is not a problem for me. I'm used to it.
Right. Well, and I'm getting used to it. I used to be like very, I would come home at lunch from high school and turn on The Edge of Night, and you're going, huh? What show was that? And then I would go back to school. So I was very, secluded when I was younger. And then somehow I started scratching my way out. But this reminds me of the good old days.
Right, I do. I've been eating a lot of cereal, peanut butter and jelly, very latchkey kid stuff.
Very nice. And I've been cooking and I've been eating healthier.
Good.
Which I need to for my beautiful heart. Since you've been here, how long have you been in LA?
I think about 7 or 8 years now. The first year was off and on, so around there.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Because since you've been here, you've been in UCB, right? Tell us about UCB.
Sure. The Upright Citizens Brigade Comedy Theater was started by Amy Poehler, Matt Walsh, Matt Besser, and Ian Roberts. So it's a comedy school that has a stage attached, right? So basically you go through the school and then some of the students end up becoming performers at the theater. So I started out there taking some improv classes, and a teacher of mine said, I noticed when you're telling monologues and things, you have a lot of interesting stories from your childhood, and you always kind of put a little comedic spin on them. You should look into doing a one-woman show. And I was like, oh, I can't do a one-woman show. I'm not Carrie Fisher. I'm not John Leguizamo. I'm not.
You're Santina Muha.
Yeah, nobody knows who I am yet. So I thought a one-woman show was like a memoir, where you don't really, and even memoirs now, I've changed my opinion on that.
Right.
Basically, I thought you can't do anything until you're somebody, but that's like a catch-22, right? Because how are you going to be anybody if you don't do anything?
Right. There are no rules.
No, especially these days, especially now with social media and webisodes, like, you can create your own stuff. And honestly, you kind of got to these days, because there's just so much, we're just saturated with it, right? So,
and what you said too about being somebody, everybody is somebody.
Exactly. Everybody has a story to tell. And maybe the whole world isn't going to be interested in everyone's story, but you will have an audience.
Yeah.
Some people will be interested. Okay, so you got to do it. So so that was really really cool. So she set me up with a director, Pam Murphy, who also had done a one-woman show about her own health battles and things like that. So that was a good match. And I did it, and it was really fun and really cool. And I ended up doing it in LA, in New York, and San Francisco. So it was really something.
It was a great show.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad I finally had a platform to turn some of these things that I always knew were funny, that other people kind of always thought were the major tragedy of my life. And I was like, yeah, it sucked at times, but also, did you hear the one where? And so this was a nice place where I got to put all of the funny, and because, you know, as someone who lives with a disability, it's a complaint of my own that whenever I see it portrayed in television media, and it's getting better now, but historically it was always sad, and it was always the moment where, you know, the reveal that the person is in a wheelchair was the moment we were gonna like amp up the music and throw to commercial. So I always thought, wow, I guess my presence is so dramatic, you know, but and my presence is dramatic, but that's because I'm from New Jersey.
Well, now you come out on the stage and they go da 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 da.
Right. So that kind of bothered me. I was like, why isn't media portraying any of these funny, stupid, silly things that are such a huge part of my life? And other people in my position that I've spoken to, we always commiserated, like, oh, how many times do you get asked, you know, for your license, or, you know, to slow down, or get a speeding ticket? And it was like we all had the same stories, and then our own sort of different stories, like no way. So you know, it's time to start focusing on the comedy.
Right. To show the comedy. I mean, when did you get into your accident? How old were you?
6.
6. So that was at a young age.
Yeah, I turned 6. In fact, I was almost 6. I turned 6 in the hospital, just 2 months after my accident, and it was a young age. And a lot of people say, "Oh, that's so sad," you know, and it is sad, of course, for a young person to be hospitalized. But I will tell you this: when you're young and you're in the hospital, you're not worried about who's going to pay the bills. You're not worried about, you know, am I going to get to go back to work? You're not worried about, you know, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? You're just living in the moment, right? That's the great thing about kids and animals. You have no choice but to live in the moment. And so, yeah, it was sucked at times, but I'm pretty grateful for me that's when it happened, because then I was able to very quickly just start adapting to my new normal.
Well, it's interesting how you said when you're, you know, at that age, you live in the moment. And it's too bad that so many people, when they get to a certain age and they, quote, grow up, they don't live in the moment. They're about, oh, this, that, and the other. And if we all live in that moment, you know, more.
Because when you become older, you do start to have responsibilities that you don't have as a kid. So I get that you need to start thinking about other things that children don't have to think about. But that doesn't mean that you can't, you know, set aside time to think about those things, and then spend the rest of the day focusing on your healing, focusing on your whatever. I mean, I found myself in the hospital 4 years ago for 3 months, and I had 2 operations which required 7 weeks of 24/7 bed rest.
Was that when we were roommates?
It was right after I had just moved out.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah.
I was living here when that happened. And I was in bed for 7 weeks. I didn't get out of bed for 7 weeks. So do you see, that's why this quarantine is like, please, I mean, I'm so grateful that I can just move around the room, you know. Yeah. But you would think that would be one of the worst things that ever happened to a person, but I really found that it helped me rewire my brain a little bit to not feel guilty when I wasn't working, not feel guilty when I wasn't creating. And I I learned to love reading again. I learned to love just relaxing again. And
What?
so taking that into this as well.
Yeah, I'm jumping back because I remember about the hospital stay, and you know, always looking at the bright side of certain things. Wasn't it in that hospital visit when your hero walked into the room?
Yes, the love of my life, Luke Perry, surprise visited me at that
And you
time.
didn't know him before that.
No, I didn't know him. Well, no, I mean, my fantasies knew him, but I and I just loved him so much, and he was just, I remained very loyal to him
Yeah.
from the 90s through, and I still do. He's just, I think he's the best. And he came and visited me. A friend of mine reached out to his manager and wrote him a letter, and he came and visited me, and it was great. It was a great moment
Yeah.
in my life. And it happened to me during that time, and it was one of the best days of my life, and I was in the hospital stuck in a bed. So you could make moments out of anything.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. You find those happy moments in this craziness that's going around us.
yeah, you have to.
Whether it's this moment or whether it's when you were 6 or 4 years ago.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
you worked with one of my favorite directors, Gus Van Sant,
Ooh, yes, I did.
with the Oscar winner from last year,
Yeah,
this year,
this year.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
that was so great. Oh my God. And it was amazing because so my accident was on March 9th. So every year on March 9th, I like to do something to sort of, in my teenage years, on every year on March 9th, I locked myself in my room and cried. And then I realized, wait, I survived. I survived. So then I was looking at March 9th like a survival day. And so my first day on that set happened to be March 9th. And so I spent my March 9th that year shooting that film, dancing in a park with Joaquin Phoenix under the direction of Gus Van Sant. It was magical. And because the film was about John Callahan, who was a quadriplegic, and Joaquin was playing that role, he was in a wheelchair too. And it was just like a very interesting, again, another moment for me.
Right. There's one of those other moments, and just, sometimes we block it too, don't we? Sometimes we go through life, or maybe you don't, but there have been times in my life where I went, it's handed to me, and I go, should I take it? It's like, well, it's right here. And even if sometimes it's not the best, it will help guide you to another level. It's
Yeah.
like, when I hurt my back and neck on the set, I was going, why did I do that? And so it's a long story. But then ultimately, I couldn't find any, quote, help at the time for the pain in the Los Angeles area. And my brother said, come up to Seattle. I have this amazing healer. So I get up there, drive to Yelm, Washington, through the forest. It was so spiritual. Open up the door, and then there's what the bleep posters all around and books. And I had, let me tell you, I went to Dr. Grabelny twice, 50% better. It was like magic. But what I found out there at that time, his wife was the producer, writer, director of What the Bleep. So, and since then we've become good friends. We work together. So it's interesting if you follow the journey and you say, okay, why is this happening?
And sometimes the why isn't clear until months, years, whatever, decades later. So that's okay, but just kind of trusting the process, trusting the universe, and knowing that everything ends. Whether you're having the best day of your life or the worst day of your life, it's gonna end and something else will start. So
Right.
you just gotta hang in there
The end is a new beginning.
all the time.
Yeah.
Always. Winter, spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall. Always. It doesn't end.
That's I actually, you did that, and I said, okay, I have to do my exercises today. So, okay, everybody, there we go. This is an exercise. Okay, got my upper shoulders. Now let's do my feet. Um, so, one day at a time.
Yes, one day at a time. The show.
The show and the life.
And the concept. Yes, exactly. One day at a time is how I try to live my life, and also is the show I'm lucky enough to be recurring on. Yeah. So it's been so great, so cool. It's a multicam, which is the type of a show where you get to record in front of a live studio audience. So it's great because I get the joy of, you know, hair and makeup and you know, filming and that whole thing, but also that sort of thing that I love from the UCB part of me that loves to perform in front of a live audience, and that sort of makes it come alive. So I get to put those two things together when I shoot one day at a time, and I get to work with all these legends, and also everyone on that cast and crew is just so great and nice.
Well, I don't know everybody, but I know I'm blessed to know Norman Lear through Jerry Jewell. And we interviewed him for Ability Magazine. Then I've seen him in so many different events, and just his presence is like, you know, it's like you can't speak, but he's like a father, like Jerry's was a grandfather. And then Brent Miller, who has been to Meet the Biz as well, which you were there that day.
I was, yeah, Brent.
I mean, another sweetheart. It's so amazing to see the people in the business. You know, sometimes you hear, oh, people in the business can be this way or that way, but that group is totally like a ball of love.
It is a great group. I love that group. Yeah. I know some people have a bad, you know, Hollywood gets a bad rap, but there's, can I say, beepholes and great people. Can I say beepholes?
You could say beepholes.
There's beepholes and great.
You should heard what Dee said the other day. It was funny.
There's bad people and good people in every, you know, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So we just have to, you know, luckily we're
seeing through this pandemic, right? We're seeing really, really awesome, great people who are just giving and helping and whatever. And then we're seeing weirdos who are doing weird things, and will continue to probably always do weird things.
Right. Right. Yeah, Norman Lear, Brent Miller, Rita Moreno, Mackenzie Phillips. Well, you get to work with Mackenzie.
Yeah, I get to work with Mackenzie. It's so cool because I used to watch the show when I was little. It's a reboot, right? So I used to watch the actual sitcom One Day at a Time when Mackenzie played the daughter I watched it with my grandmother, and now I get to work with her, and I know my grandmother's watching, you know, from heaven, like just laughing along with the laugh track like she always did, because she spoke Italian and didn't really understand what anyone was saying, but she knew to laugh when the audience laughed, and that's how I learned comedy.
She says, that's my Santina. She's watching it.
Santina.
Santina.
Yeah.
You do different characters, don't you? During
yeah.
And then, well, what? A little bit here and there, but your show, I mean, that's one thing. How do you put a show together? How do you like say, okay, I'm gonna write a show, or I'm going to develop a show? What?
Yeah. So what I did for my last one is, and you can do it however you feel comfortable, right? So for the first show, That Girl in the Wheelchair, that was the first one-woman show that I did.
Yeah.
I had conversations with my director, and I recorded them, tape recorded them, and we talked, and I would just tell her stories throughout my life, and then I would go home, our home where we lived, and transcribe them, right? Just so I would listen, type, and then after that, I would go through, after a few days, weeks, you know, a few weeks of that, a few days a week, I started to look for themes and through lines, and, you know, and then I put it together. And then, yeah, that's how I did that. And it was an hour long when it started, but I only had 28 minutes. So I had to chop. So I always keep a scraps pile or a scraps document. So then anything that I say that doesn't fit into this narrative, it's still part of my life. So I put it in my scraps, my scraps document or whatever. And then
Right.
that may come up in another show, or maybe just in a stand-up set, or maybe in a sketch or whatever down the line, right? So it's all about creating. And when things are happening to you, sometimes it's hard to see the humor as it's happening. And you know what they say, tragedy plus time equals comedy, right? So but I encourage you to continue the writing even if you're still in the tragic part, because you never know, you know, sometimes even later on with different perspective, you'll see how you were writing it even when you were sad, and you'll still be able to see the comedy in it even if you were sad when you were writing it. Does it make sense?
Yeah, is that one way that you get through, quote, the tragedy or the craziness that we sometimes go through? I mean, I know you go creatively and you write, but what's something else, like when you were younger or now? How do you deal with it?
Well, now, I mean, so with this whole pandemic right now, there are days that I wake up and I say, oh, thank God I'm healthy and I'm going to go, you know, do something productive today and I'm going to work out, whatever. And there's other days that I wake up and maybe I see something on the news that makes me scared and I'm terrified for that day. And I listen to my body and I listen to my heart. And if that day I don't feel like doing anything productive, I don't, you know, it's
Mhm.
okay to take some time out and be kind to yourself. And just as much as we have to eat well, we have to do things that are kind for our mind and our brain, you know, that's really important. So for me, I do things like puzzles, coloring. That's what works for me. Sometimes some of my friends are like, I don't know how you do puzzles. They frustrate me. But then other people do Sudoku, and I'm like, oh my God, that's a nightmare. So you got to find your thing, and that's it. And it's okay if you need a timeout, because sometimes you have to recharge your, you know, you have to recharge your brain, right? You have to recharge that part. So if you have, for people who have writer's block and they're just like, walk away for a minute, you know, walk away. It's okay. Especially when you're actually going through it. You know, if you're in the hospital, that's not the time where you need to start writing your one woman show. I mean, you can if that helps you, but I don't feel creative when I'm going through the thing, but I still write down whatever I am feeling. And then later when I'm out of it and I have some distance and perspective, then I can create the comedy, or find, like I said, the through line, or what makes it interesting and cohesive rather than just terrifying. And
Well, it's like what you put your major focus on what's going on. If you're healing, I'm going to heal. You might
yes,
keep a note or two, but my focus is on healing. Now it's like on writing. And now I'm going to enjoy myself and do a puzzle.
exactly. It's about doing whatever you're doing and savoring it and being in the moment, and allowing yourself to be doing what you're doing, and
Yeah.
not thinking about, I should be doing this, or later I'll be doing that, or what, you know, write it down if you think you might forget, and then put it aside and focus on what you're doing. And if what you're doing is nothing, then be doing nothing.
Right.
But be doing nothing. But if you're worrying and you're worrying, then start writing. See what you know. Actually, writing is a form. It's writing. You know how when people have anxiety or something, they go for a run because you got to get it out of your body.
Yeah.
I recently just heard this, you know, read a study that when you're writing, it is taking it out of your body. It's physically moving it out of your body. So if you're in the hospital, or you're stuck at home, or you're whatever is happening, you can write it or type it.
Mm-hmm.
And studies show it does partially come out of your body, just like how going for a run, you know, gets it out of your body in that
Like
way.
a cleanse.
It is like a cleanse.
Yeah. It's
And
interesting.
by the way,
Yeah.
if you write, and then 3 months later you look at it and you go, this is not funny, then that's okay too. That doesn't have to be your thing. You don't have to force, you don't have to force anything, you know?
Right.
That might be a problem people have.
Yeah. So where can people find you? I mean, you have a website or?
No, but you could find me on Twitter or Instagram at Santina Muha, SantinaMuha.
And you have a new video out, don't you?
Oh, ass level?
Ass level.
Yes, ass level is really, so that's something that I wrote based on, some of the perks of being in a wheelchair, because I thought, well, we don't ever really see those. We only ever see the violin playing sad parts of it, right? So I wrote a rap song, and then we shot a music video for it, and it focuses on some of the fun parts of being in a wheelchair.
Oh, it's a fun video. Whenever I need a laugh or I need something to get away from stuff, I watch that, and I watch your ass level.
And that's me rapping. Can you believe it?
I love it. Did you ever thought you'd be rapping?
Yeah, I thought I'd be rapping more before I thought I'd be singing some sort of opera or something.
Right. So that's on YouTube as well.
Yes, it's on YouTube. Okay. And if you go to my Instagram, the link is in the bio.
Okay. And check this woman. I mean, your IMDb is gonna very soon, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on that Emmy stage in a year or two.
Won an Emmy in a year. No, I don't know if anybody's going to be on the Emmy stage in a year.
Yeah, that's true.
Everything is canceled.
Everything's virtual.
2020 is canceled. 2020 is canceled.
Crazy, but
okay.
This is the year to focus and trust.
Exactly. That's why I feel like whatever we just talked about is very relevant to what's going on right now, because I read a quote the other day that I loved, and I just have to read it really quickly because it was like, this is how I feel. It says, hold on, I'm looking for everyone. If you don't come out of this quarantine with a new skill, your side hustle started, or more knowledge, you never lacked time, you lacked discipline. And I think that that's important, because you have, right, if you have a little bit, unless you have a million kids running around and now you're homeschooling and you still don't have time, that's okay too. I'm not, no pressure, no guilt, whatever, no shame. But if you are going, I'm bored, this sucks, blah, 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 please stop, okay? You have the internet, you have the whole world at your fingertips, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learn something, do something, write something. I'm in 2 classes right now from home. Just do something. Just shut up and do something.
Well, and as they say, when you get in the plane, you have to strap yourself in first before your children or your...
No, the mask.
Oh, that too.
Your mask on first.
Oh, right. So put your mask on first and wash your hands first before you...
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Santina, Rumi. This was fun. Thank you.
I hope that this was helpful for... And by the way, if anybody has any more specific questions, please feel free to, message me or message David, and he'll send it along.
All right.
And I also direct solo shows and things like that. So happy to work with someone personally if they need.
I love it. Thank you. I look forward to your next venture.
Ooh, me too.
L'chaim.
Cheers.
Mm.